There is a man in Springfield who has been on television for longer than most people have been alive. He has his own burger chain, his own merchandise empire, his own licensing deals, and according to him, he has absolutely nothing saved. Not a single dollar. After decades at the top, Krusty the Clown claims he is broke. And the strange thing is, he might actually be telling the truth. But he also might be hiding millions in the Caribbean. Both things somehow appear to be simultaneously real. Let's start with the foundation that built everything, the show itself. The Krusty the Clown Show has been running on Springfield television for decades, making Krusty one of the longest tenured children's entertainers in the entire history of that city. That kind of longevity is extraordinary. In the real world, a television personality who holds a daily show for that long becomes genuinely wealthy. Not comfortable wealthy, but generational wealth wealthy. Top television hosts routinely earn tens of millions of dollars each year from their broadcast deals alone. Krusty's show isn't a late-night prestige program. It's a children's variety show, which historically commands lower per-episode fees. But the volume and duration more than compensate. 30 years of daily airtime adds up to something staggering. But television alone was never Krusty's primary income stream. His real money machine was the brand that grew around the show. Krusty's likeness, his face, his name, these became commercial properties in their own right. The moment a celebrity's image can be sold on a product without them having to show up and do anything, that's when real wealth begins compounding. Thus, licensing works like this. A company pays you a fee every time they put your name or face on their product. Krusty's brand appears on toys, costumes, and branded food products sold throughout Springfield. Every single unit sold generates a royalty, and because Krusty doesn't manufacture any of it himself, the income is almost entirely passive. The scale of what that could mean in real dollars is almost difficult to comprehend. The Simpsons franchise itself generates over $750 million annually in real-world merchandise. Krusty, as the show's in-universe equivalent of that same franchise machine, would be tapping into a licensing stream worth potentially hundreds of millions over his career lifetime. Then there are the endorsements. Krusty endorses products throughout the series. Krusty brand cereal, toys of questionable safety, and dozens of other consumer goods. Endorsement income and licensing income are different things. Licensing means your name is on the product, while endorsements mean you personally vouch for it in advertising. Krusty does both constantly. And then there is Krusty Burger, a franchise operation where someone else pays you to operate a version of your brand, is one of the most powerful wealth-building engines ever invented. Krusty Burger, with its menu of items including the Krusty Burger, the Ribwich, and the Clogger, represents a sprawling commercial empire operating across Springfield and beyond. At peak operation, Krusty is simultaneously collecting television income, licensing royalties, endorsement fees, and franchise revenues. If you were drawing a chart of his theoretical maximum wealth, it would look almost absurdly high, potentially reaching into 9 figures across several decades. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Here is where the story turns. Because everything we just described, every source of income, every revenue stream, depends entirely on one thing: the show staying on the air. When Krusty loses his television program, he doesn't just lose a paycheck. He loses the engine that powers every other income stream simultaneously. Without the show, the merchandise loses relevance. Without the show, the endorsement deals dry up. Without the show, the Krusty Burger franchise still operates. But without a living, active celebrity face driving enthusiasm, even that starts to erode. His entire financial architecture is built on a single load-bearing wall, and that wall can be knocked down. Now add gambling. Krusty is depicted throughout the series as a compulsive gambler, and compulsive gambling isn't just a hobby that costs money. It is a psychological condition that can consume unlimited funds because the impulse doesn't scale to your bank balance. A compulsive gambler with access to more money doesn't gamble less. They gamble more. The debt to Fat Tony and the Springfield mob is not presented as a minor embarrassment. It's presented as an existential threat. Krusty owes money to people who will not accept "I'm a little short this month" as an answer. This isn't a credit card balance. This is the kind of debt that ends careers or lives. Krusty's solution to the mob debt is, in its own way, genuinely creative and genuinely revealing. He franchises his own identity, selling licenses to other clowns to perform as him. It's a cash generation scheme born entirely from desperation. When a man is selling pieces of his own face to strangers to pay off gambling debts, you are watching financial crisis in real time. And then there is the tax situation. Krusty maintains a secret bank account in the Cayman Islands, exposed when Bart accidentally traces a check back to it. An offshore account isn't inherently a sign of wealth, but it is a sign of deliberate financial complexity. You don't set up an account in the Caribbean by accident. The Cayman Islands account is the most important financial data point in the entire series. People who have nothing don't go to the trouble of hiding it. The account doesn't prove Krusty is rich, but it proves he was rich enough at some point that someone advised him to move money offshore to protect it. Tax evasion, hiding income from the government to avoid paying what's owed, carries severe penalties. Back taxes, interest, and fines can rapidly multiply the original amount owed. If Krusty had been systematically sheltering income for years, the bill when it finally comes due would be enormous. This is not a parking ticket. The marriages and the lawsuits are not just dramatic flourishes, they are direct wealth destruction mechanisms. Divorce settlements transfer assets. Lawsuits result in judgments. In Krusty's case, these aren't isolated incidents. They appear to be recurring features of his financial landscape, each one carving out another piece of whatever he had managed to accumulate. Krusty himself admits it plainly in one of the series' most quietly devastating moments. He has no savings, not reduced savings, not depleted savings. No savings. After decades of peak earning, after being one of the most commercially valuable personalities in Springfield, the cupboard is empty. He blames gambling and bad investments. What makes that admission so striking is what it implies about the scale of destruction required to arrive there. The television money, the licensing, the burger franchise, these were real. They produced real cash. And all of it is gone. Every dollar consumed. Think about how much income you would have to destroy to reach zero from where Krusty started. This is the boom-bust cycle in its most extreme form. The boom phase generates extraordinary wealth, potentially 9 figures across a full career. The bust phase, driven by gambling losses, tax penalties, legal settlements, and lifestyle spending, consumes it with equal ferocity. Krusty doesn't gradually spend down his savings. He oscillates between genuine wealth and genuine crisis. And yet, he keeps getting back up. Every time the financial floor collapses, something rebuilds it. The comeback special after cancellation draws celebrity support and massive ratings. The brand retains enough commercial value to attract major corporate sponsors even after prolonged career slumps. Krusty is, in a very strange way, too valuable to stay broke. The lavish lifestyle continues throughout the series. The mansion, the expensive habits. A man with genuinely no money doesn't maintain a mansion. The property taxes alone would be prohibitive, which means either Krusty is lying about having nothing, or the wealth is cyclically restored fast enough that the outward signs of it never fully disappear, possibly both. Here's another detail that crystallizes everything. Krusty is depicted as being in his 50s to 60s with no retirement savings, making him financially vulnerable in a way that most people his age simply cannot afford to be. He is one bad quarter away from genuine destitution, not theoretical destitution, but real, structural collapse. This is the distinction that unlocks everything about Krusty's finances. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what flows in. Wealth is what stays. Krusty has demonstrated extraordinary repeated ability to generate income. What he has never demonstrated is the ability to convert any of it into lasting, stable wealth. So, what is Krusty actually worth? The honest answer is that the question assumes a stability his finances simply don't have. At peak periods, active show, active franchises, licensing deals flowing, his net worth likely climbed into the hundreds of millions. At nadir, post-cancellation, mid-gambling crisis, post-IRS audit, it may have genuinely reached zero or below. The offshore account remains the unresolved variable. If Krusty successfully sheltered a portion of his peak earnings before the IRS found the account, some of that money may still exist somewhere, in a form that doesn't show up on any balance sheet, doesn't appear in any court filing, and doesn't get seized by any creditor. Krusty is not secretly wealthy in the way that phrase usually implies, quietly sitting on a hidden fortune while performing poverty. But he is not permanently, irrecoverably broke either. He is something more uncomfortable than either of those things. A man of genuine, enormous earning power who has demonstrated an equally enormous capacity to destroy what he earns. And that is the thing that makes Krusty's finances genuinely fascinating and genuinely sad. The tragedy isn't that he never made money. He made extraordinary amounts of money. The tragedy is that he made it over and over again, and it disappeared over and over again, and somewhere along the way, the cycle became the life. Come back to that image from the opening. A man who has been on television longer than most people have been alive, with a burger chain and a merchandise empire and a franchise operation, telling you with apparent sincerity that he has nothing. The unsettling truth is that both things are real. The empire existed. The nothing also exists. And between those two facts lies the most expensive gambling addiction in Springfield history. Krusty the Clown is proof of something that real financial advisors will tell you in quiet voices. Income is not wealth. Earning $100 million and keeping $100 million are two entirely different skills. Krusty mastered the first one completely. He never learned the second one at all. And somehow that makes him one of the most human characters in a show full of cartoons.